Disaster seems to be in store for Deion Sanders in Colorado. Jordan Seaton, he may be on the move.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borber. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. It is early signing day, the most exciting time of the year or the most nerve-wracking time of the year. And for Colorado, it looked like it was going to be quite the day. They looked like they had some good plans in store. They looked like they had some promising noise in the recruiting trail. Their class was obviously headlined by Jordan Seaton, and there was a lot of talk about whether or not he'd be able to kind of be the future. I said he could be the future of Colorado's offensive line. I said he could be the cornerstone of the program. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, there was some noise about Oregon getting in the mix. Maryland won a little piece of Jordan Seaton. And next thing you know, disaster has appeared to almost strike, or appears to about to be striking. One of 24/7 Sports' recruiting analyst inserted a projection, and they have Jordan Seaton flipping his commitment and signing with Maryland. So what does this mean for Colorado? Well, for one, that'd be a straight up disaster because Jordan Seaton, there's something different about having a 5-star offensive tackle. And I want to thank you guys, by the way, for making me your first listen of the day. I want to dive into all the early signing day stuff as late as possible to see what would be happening. And of course, it gets a little crazy. But back to Jordan Seaton. Losing him is something that I would say is probably the biggest blow a team could have, a team like Colorado, specifically because they were struggling on the offensive line. And we're going to have a special guest join us right here too, because we need to get a little spicy. Someone needs to apologize. And that someone is not our special guest. Joining us on today's show is Trey Moore of Locked On Terps. Trey, how you doing? Thank you for joining. It's an emergency pod, so we don't even have names. We're just going for it right now. Just kidding. We do have names. We're not that much of a disaster these days. Just a second, Trey. We'll just roll with it. It's fine.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for coming. Little mic unmute there. Colorado locks up Jordan Seaton, arguably probably the most important recruit of the Deion Sanders era, right? We get him. It's all things are dandy. It's okay. Protect Shedeur Sanders. And then all of a sudden, there's some Maryland noise. The Turtles are snapping over there. Tell me what happened on the Maryland side. Give us the Maryland perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it started a couple days ago with those kind of weird pictures that he was posting on his Instagram and Twitter, where he posted the picture with Coach Locksley and Rakeem Jarrett. And for the Colorado fans that don't know and aren't familiar with Rakeem Jarrett is a Maryland guy. He went to Maryland. He's currently on the Buccaneers roster, but he was the last big time flip that Coach Locksley had. He was a 5-star wide receiver committed to LSU for a while. And Jordan Seaton posted a picture of Coach Locksley and Rakeem Jarrett, which was the last big time flip that Coach Locksley had. So that's when I kind of came out with my video, and I was attacked. I
bet you were.
For saying that there was a potential flip that could happen. It was just the earliest news. And then we saw on Twitter, I think it was yesterday when he posted that picture of the buttons and him making the decision. So it was all kind of like abstract, and now it's more like concrete, I guess, to see some like actual evidence and some actual people like the 247 crystal ball actually be picked or put in. But that's overall kind of how it's kind of gone down from my perspective. It's kind of picked up. Before it was me just kind of, or everyone in the Maryland community just trying to guess what was going on with the situation overall.
Yeah, it's something similar over here. I saw your episode, right? And I had already heard, I thought it was going to be Oregon. If there was any team that kind of came into the mix, Oregon and Dan Lanning have kind of, I did an episode about it. People disagreed. They have like this little recruiting rivalry. I think people get confused with like on-field rivalry. You could have like a recruiting beef with someone and never play them. Like Coach Prime and Mike Norvell over at Florida State are constantly going to recruit the same players. And there's always going to be like this him versus him because it's obviously his alma mater. But then Maryland comes into the picture. And I see Trey's episode and I jokingly put a meme of like George Bush, like the Maryland thinks they're going to get him. And I thought it was funny. Trey thought it was funny. We moved on. Life went on. And then all of a sudden, I did a whole breakdown of the button epidemic, if you will, on yesterday's episode because Jordan Seaton posts the meme where it's like, for those of you who aren't familiar with the meme, it's like a picture or a video or something. And it's like this guy that can't decide. There's two buttons. There wasn't options on the buttons, which I kind of assumed was an issue already. And coming into this morning, everybody was kind of signing early and often for Colorado. And the few guys that didn't, they either flipped or maybe are considering a different decision. And lo and behold, Jordan Seaton is kind of possibly on the move and they get the Maryland crystal ball. And so I would assume it's kind of similar for Maryland, where a guy like Jordan Seaton comes in, probably starts right away. It's probably a cornerstone of the offensive line. Obviously, you guys are losing some experience at the quarterback position. You lose some other skill positions. But talk about what Jordan Seaton means to both Colorado and Maryland, because it's not like he's replaceable. He's the top offense lineman in the country.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a similar thing for Maryland as it is for Colorado. I know a lot of people in the Colorado community have talked about protection is a huge thing for you guys next year, protecting your star-studded quarterback. But it's literally the same thing for Maryland, competing in the Big Ten and getting to that next level. When you think about the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world and the Penn States, they always have top offensive line group, top players taken in the NFL draft. And of course, we're not close to that level of a Michigan or Ohio State. But the biggest difference is right now, we're not so far away on the skill positions. Like Maryland's wide receiver group was able to do some things against Michigan secondary, but it's all about up front for us. And that's the biggest difference in competing in the Big Ten. And that's a big part of what the Big Ten is known for: running the football, offensive line, power football, defense. That's a big part of what the Big Ten is, but Maryland hasn't been that type of team. So having a guy like Jordan Seaton, I was watching his huddle film today because, I mean, I know the name and like I know he's a 5-star, but like you actually want to see some film and see what he's about. And he's a really good player overall, really a freak, honestly, at that position at the offensive line. But he's a guy that can come in and play right away, which you don't say on the offensive line, which could be huge for Maryland. He's going to be an NFL guy if all things goes right for him, and has the potential to be a high-end pick, even though he's just going into college. But if he works hard and everything goes the way it's supposed to, that's what's going to happen with Jordan Seaton. But he's a guy that can come into Maryland, play right away. You don't normally see that on the offensive line, even at a place like Maryland where we don't have the best offensive linemen. I mean, we got solid guys up front, but it's never been good enough to take us to a next level where we're in a close game against Michigan, and we need to be able to find some balance in the run game and be able to get some push up front, but we're not really able to do that. So I've always said the biggest difference between us right now isn't in the skill positions. It's all about up front. So Jordan C could be huge for us.
Yeah, and to touch on the Colorado aspect, because obviously over here on Locked On Buffs, we like to focus on all things futuristic as well, because Jordan Seaton in the present was like the poster boy of this class. It was like their class was dwindling down to 9 people, but it was like, okay, everything's fine. We got Jordan Seaton in the class. So once Jordan Seaton's name popped up for Colorado, it was like, that's a huge deal. Coach Prime talked about replacing his whole offensive line. And it was like, okay, where are you going to go? Because I've said it on this show, I get ridiculed for it every time I say it. You can't build your offensive line through the portal every year and expect it to work. Having someone like Seaton come in, and this is the same for Maryland, and I don't have to be a Maryland expert to know this, having a 5-star offensive lineman who lives up to his potential helps not only the unit, it helps recruit that unit. Coaches go, look at Jordan. Jordan came here, he took a chance on us, and it worked out for him. And Colorado, I think they were hanging their hats on him. And I kind of want you to talk about the Maryland connection, because he goes to IMG, which is in Florida, but he's from Maryland, he's from the DMV, and talk about the secret visit this past weekend, because that's kind of where it all went wrong for Colorado, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, to start with the first part of the question, he is a DMV native, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia area. But so he attended St. John's before he went to IMG. St. John's is right here, right about 30 minutes away from the University of Maryland. So he's definitely like a hometown kind of close to Maryland kid, even though he's been down at IMG over the last couple of days, but he's definitely a Maryland kid overall. But to the second part, what would you say the second part again? Sorry.
Just talk the secret visit, because I think that's when Maryland picked up all the steam.
Yeah, the secret visit. I just heard about that. Someone just announced that he took a secret visit this weekend. I had no idea. It was complete secret to me, complete secret to pretty much everyone, but that report just came out, and I don't know what to say about it. I didn't know that it happened, but I think also a big part of it was Jordan Seaton's first offer was Maryland. So Coach Loxley's been through it with him for a long time now. So it's kind of Maryland's always kind of been the back of his head. And I've heard reports that he's kind of having question marks about staying home and that he wants to stay home. But the secret visit thing, I don't know. It was just a report that just came out. So I guess there was a secret visit to Maryland. I didn't know that happened, but I guess Maryland hosted him this week and they did a good job of keeping it on the low. That kind of thing usually gets out, but it got out today. But I didn't know anything about the secret visit, but that's definitely interesting that they kind of kept that on the low.
Yeah, and for those who are just finding out, because it was literally a secret until maybe last night or to this morning, Jordan Seaton had a nice little visit with Mike Loxley, the head coach of Maryland. So it's either a really bad thing for Colorado or a really great thing for Maryland, depending on how you look at it. If you're Mike Loxley, Trey, what is your pitch to Jordan Seaton? Like, what do you tell him in this secret visit where it's like, okay, I know you're committed to Colorado, but what is your but?
I mean, I think number one thing is you get to stay home. You get to stay close to home. You haven't been able to be home. You've been in IMG. You've been in Florida. You get to play in front of your own people. That's the number one biggest thing. And two, you get to do something different. I mean, you get to do something different with Colorado and all the up and coming and all the show that goes on there with Dion, and the whole country talks about it. But you get to do something different with Maryland, where you're going to be one of our biggest recruits ever and be a real change potentially in this program, to be where we are definitely on the upper echelon of things and going up the mountain, but you have a chance to do something different, something special right here at your hometown. I think that's the kind of the pitch for Jordan Seaton. And then also you get to play right away. But I think Colorado would kind of pitch a similar thing with the playing right away. But playing right away is always a big thing when you think about maybe like an Oregon. He probably would have to sit maybe a year or two before getting in there, maybe just a year. But I'm not exactly sure how that would play out. But I think those three things, playing right away, being home overall, definitely a huge pitch, and just doing something different that nobody's really that not a lot of people have done at all.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that they both have to offer that very few programs have to offer is playing for a coach that looks like him as well. Obviously, college football is predominantly white head coaches, and both Deion Sanders, Mike Loxley are obviously African-American men. So it's a cool opportunity either way for him. If I was Deion Sanders, for one, I think the pitch for Deion Sanders always is, I mean, I'm an NFL Hall of Famer. That's like top of the list. Publicity, and then the opportunity to play. But Maryland has one thing that Colorado will never have for Jordan Seaton, and that's proximity to home. And at the end of the day, like Trey said, he's been at IMG, which is in Florida, not really that close to Maryland. I'm sure it's like a 3 or 4 hour flight or 2 hour, whatever the flight length is, but it's just not that close. And so he gets that opportunity. This day and age in college football, you could kind of take that chance as well. If it doesn't work out, say at Maryland or Colorado, he could always transfer and end up at a Power 5 huge program anyway. So a lot of things to look out for. Trey will have you covered over on Locked On Terps. Thank you for hopping on for my emergency pod, Trey. I appreciate you. I'm going to continue on talking about what else is going on with Colorado. Everyone go follow Trey and Locked On Terps. He will have you updated on everything Jordan Seaton from the Maryland perspective. Trey, Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, so back to it. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Let me tell you about FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So go ahead and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Okay, welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I'm Kevin Borba. Like I said earlier, thank you guys for making me your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We got other things besides Jordan Seaton to talk about. Obviously, Jordan Seaton would be a tough loss for Colorado. That's just one where you kind of were hoping to build your program around him, and then all of a sudden he's gone. They also missed out on, in their own class, we'll start there. They had a decommitment. So let's go there first, because that's obviously the unfortunate part of early signing day. You love when you do it to other people, and you hate when it happens to you. They did lose a commitment to Georgia Tech. It was one of those things where you obviously lose your defensive ends coach and everything. You take a risk there because obviously he recruited a majority of the players, and so you lose a Montre. It's one of those things where it's like, you hate to see it. You also in the organs class, because Colorado was hoping to flip someone, and it did not go well at all. They were looking to flip the offensive lineman Jaquan McCroy, who's 6'8", 365, number 80 player in the country, Alabama guy, and he just broke Colorado's hearts, if you will, because he has the hats, and there's always a hat science to this. You got to look at the hats when they're on the table, and I feel like the hat science kind of told us where he was going, but it didn't really work out that way. He picks up the Colorado hat, and then I think he tossed it a good 15 yards. I'm not going to lie to you. Toss it off the camera. The crowd went wild because they see him go Colorado, and then it was like boom, frisbee. He frisbeed it like he was on the beach playing frisbee, sipping an ice cold one. And obviously he's a teenager, so didn't work. He's not sipping a cold one, but you know what I mean. And just flung the hat, goes to Oregon. So Colorado loses out on him. That's tough. And then they also lost to Montre Bradford to Georgia Tech, 3-star defensive end from Statesboro. Is a tough one because obviously Colorado needs help in the trenches. They're getting that help in the portal. So that's always a good thing, but it's kind of it's a tough thing because you want to keep everybody. Colorado's class was already so small. Sorry, I'm reading your guys' comments. I get distracted a little bit, so I'm trying not to lose my train of thought here. You had such a small class already. They came into the day with 9 commits. They signed 5. So we'll go with the people who signed. You got Draylon Miller, the 4-star receiver, 67th player in the country. He's going to be a star for Colorado. Might start right away, or at least be in the rotation right away, because obviously Will Shepherd, Jimmy Horn, and Travis Hunter are going to lock down those 3 top spots. Then you have the athlete Cameron McKell from Statesboro, Georgia, 4-star. He signed. Brandon Davis Swain, defensive lineman, Michigan, 4-star. He signed. Big body, 6'3", 263. That's good. More beef in there. So you continue on. You get Eric Brantley, a defensive lineman. Saw this hilarious tweet about Eric. He committed to Colorado. Didn't hear a peep from him the rest of the time. And then it's boom, he's signed. So that's what you love to see. This man stood on business. He stayed committed, and that's always cool to see. And then obviously they brought in the 3-star running back Michael Welch. They signed Samuel Okunolola, I believe is how you say it. Okunlola, I believe. I'm probably butchering that. The Pitt transfer. He was the latest addition. Hadn't done an episode about him yet, so I figured I'd talk about him today on early signing day. When he signed, I think this kind of makes up for losing a Montre in the sense that he's experienced. He showed a lot of potential at Georgia Tech, at Pitt this year. 18 total tackles, 5 sacks, a forced fumble. You get college production on your defensive line if you're Colorado, which is a huge thing because obviously a lot of the guys isn't working out. And by the way, Kevin Borba, thank you guys for making me your first listen every day. Let's see, 5 guys, not 20%. What math are you guys mathing? Who's mathing? I try not to math out here, guys. They had 9 commits. 5 of them have signed so far. Yes, I believe the number was 9. They are only waiting on Jordan Seaton right now. They also brought in Chidozie Nwankwo from Houston, the defensive line transfer, and Quinn Barnes from Alabama. Walter Taylor from Vanderbilt, the quarterback. Cordell Russell signed, the wide receiver from TCU. Goes by Baby T.O. Love that. I think that's a cool nickname there. Quincy Wiggins from LSU, I think has a lot of promise. Didn't live up to the hype at LSU yet, but For those of you asking in the comment section, Jordan Seaton did not sign yet. I'm kind of flipping back between obviously this episode and Steve Wiltfong and what else is going on there, because he's projected to end up at Maryland right now. That is the talk. That is the talk of the town. That is the beef. The issues that Colorado is dealing with. And a projection by Jeff Ehrman, who's a Maryland insider, was inserted. So obviously, once Steve Wiltfong puts one in, it's an over. So it's not officially over, but obviously, that's a tough one. Back to our additions. Preston Hodge, the safety from Liberty, very productive. He will probably start right away for Colorado. Shores up the defense, the secondary. I think they're losing a couple guys, and they just had some guys that didn't pan out like they'd hope. Destin Wade, another quarterback for the to serve as a backup for Shadur. His twin brother, by the way, Keaton Wade, linebacker or edge, played a lot of Kentucky, was quite productive. Will Shepard, I think Will Shepard is probably the best wide receiver on the roster. Then you get Chamon Matier, Cincinnati transfer, tight end, really productive. Offensive lineman, Khalil Benson, Justin Mayers, Tyler Johnson, Yakiri Walker, and then also Terrell Timmons from NC State. So they have a lot of positive additions to be excited about if you're Colorado. Obviously, Jordan Seaton one is the one to look out for. And then there's also a possible coaching addition. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition anytime soon, but Warren Sapp, according to the Rich Eisen show, Coach Prime was on there, did get his degree. So that means he is able to be a coach. And obviously, as we know, he is projected to be one of the coaches for Colorado, in a recent commitment from the Houston transfer. I don't want to keep butchering his name. The Houston transfer, Chidozie. Coach Prime said Sapp will love to see you on the field. And I think a lot of people heard Sal, but he was saying Sapp, as in Warren Sapp. So Warren Sapp, I think, is going to join the staff in some capacity, which would be great for Colorado in terms of experience. In terms of not coaching experience, he doesn't have any of that. But in terms of NFL experience, in terms of being one of the best players to ever play the defense line position, that's huge. When we come back, I'm going to get a vibe check. So shoot me questions in the comment section right now, and I'm going to go over them. We're going to get a vibe check in Colorado. It's going to be fun. And I'm going to tell you what I think the vibe should be moving forward. But first, a word from our sponsors over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I have experience with LinkedIn. I graduated college, needed a job, go to LinkedIn, got my first job off of LinkedIn at the Pac-12 networks. It was a great experience. Got to work in TV. It was awesome. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, what makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, welcome back. We are taking a little vibe check. I got a little thermometer for the vibes. What is going on? Secret visit. Yes. So I got a question about the secret visit. They did lose Amontre Bradford. He committed to Georgia Tech. Yes. The secret visit. So Jordan Seaton over the weekend, which obviously he committed to Colorado. I think it was around last week. Everything's a blur these days. I couldn't even tell you what day it is today. He had a visit with Mike Locksley, the Maryland head coach, who, as you guys heard earlier, or if you're just joining us, I had Trey Moore, the host of Locked on Terps, on. Mike Locksley, was Jordan's first offer. Jordan is a DMV guy. That's the Maryland area. And Mike Locksley clearly never gave up. Jordan included Maryland in his top list of schools, that one graphic that didn't have Colorado on it. And Mike Locksley took a little trip to see Jordan, and obviously was able to make a good enough impression because Jordan is considering flipping. What's another question that you guys have? Did Jordan sign yet? Not yet. Pen has not put to paper. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan doesn't put pen to paper anytime soon. Maybe he doesn't sign today. It's one of those things where you never know. Maybe he decides to go into February. Maybe it extends longer. The best thing that Colorado could hope for Because obviously the best case scenario for Colorado is Jordan just signs and we get this all over with. But assuming he doesn't sign today, the best thing that Colorado could hope for is he doesn't sign at all today. And then they go into the other signing day because that gives Deion Sanders, that gives Colorado more time to kind of make their case. Because obviously they know they have work to be done. You can't just be like, I'm Deion Sanders. This is Colorado. You're going to start right away. You'll get NIL deals. You have to kind of make your case. You have to see what went wrong. Dan Lanning has done this perfectly. I hate to compare, bringing Dan Lanning to the scenario, but Dan Lanning is probably the king of flipping recruits. If you go look at Oregon's class right now, they've flipped a handful of guys already. They flipped a guy from Ohio State. They're flipping guys from all over the place. And it's like, what is going on? And Dan Lanning, I think the best way to describe it is he sees what his staff isn't doing and they adjust. That's what Colorado needs to do. If Seaton doesn't sign today, they need to adjust. They need to be like, okay, he's clearly interested in us because he committed. But he also, something's holding him back. If the difference between Jordan Seaton and going to Maryland and Colorado is NIL, Colorado needs to figure out a way to pump up that NIL. Fans go donate to whatever the collective is called. But if the difference is being close to home, and I think a lot of people these days don't want to admit that. So it's kind of one of these things where it's like, it's either or. He has to come here, or he doesn't. It's because NFL, NIL. If he wants to play at Maryland because that's what's close to home, that's understandable. I think it's just one of those things where, regardless, you wish if you're Colorado to keep him, because again, this is the vibe for the offensive line. The offensive line had 5 transfers, right? Yeah, because they lost one. Sorry, doing math in my head right now. They had 5 transfers and Jordan Seaton. Jordan Seaton, best case scenario, starts right away, develops, becomes the cornerstone of that offense line. They build around him. Now, if they lose him, they're going to have to play this game where they have to continuously build the offense line in the portal. Because of their offense lineman that they brought in the portal, Tyler Johnson does not have that many years of eligibility left. I don't think Khalil Benson has a lot of years of eligibility, if any. And so at most, you're probably having to replace 3 linemen next year if Jordan Seaton's there. But now that you lose him, you're replacing 4, maybe 5, depending on how the season goes. So huge loss there. Are there any questions you guys want me to talk about? Where the blank are you at, Jordan Seaton? Jordan Seaton is somewhere deciding, probably posting memes, because I think the best thing to discuss, or the best thing to do as a recruit right now, is kind of just figure out what you want to do, because obviously this is a huge decision for your life. Are you locked on Buffs or locked on Dan Lanning? I'm not locked on Dan Lanning. I was just talking about how a lot of guys put a lot of effort into flipping. This is the live look at Jordan Seaton's Instagram. I'm looking right now. He still has his Colorado commitment post up. So that's good. He still has all the Colorado stuff up. It's just he hasn't decided yet. Dan Lanning can't beat Washington. Oregon has never won anything. Oregon, here's what Oregon has. Nike, it's a prominent brand. Oregon's a bigger brand than Washington. Oregon's probably, outside of Ohio State and Michigan, Oregon, sorry, you guys are distracting me again. Oregon is probably one of the biggest brands in the Big Ten. USC's up there as well. So it's one of those things. You hate to see it. You hate to see someone like Dan Lanning in Oregon succeeding so well if you're a Colorado fan, because it's like, we have Deion Sanders. We have Coach Prime. He should be able to do everything and more that he wants. I think he's just still figuring out his strategy. And so, I think the Jordan Seaton saga is one that's going to be interesting. I think best case for Colorado, assuming he doesn't sign with them, is he doesn't sign at all today. That gives them more time. If Jordan Seaton signs with Maryland, obviously, Coach Prime has a deep connection with Nike, right? Sir, Nike, the creator of Nike, literally funds everything Oregon does. So obviously Coach Prime has his own shoe, but it's hard to beat the literal brand of Nike. Anyway, back to what I was saying. You hope Jordan doesn't sign today. You hope you can kind of put together a class of a sales pitch of like, this is why you should be here. This is why you should come here. Like, I think the main difference between Colorado and Maryland right now, you have Shedeur Sanders, you have Travis Hunter. Maryland is losing their quarterback. They're losing Talia Tungavailoa. They're losing a few guys where they lost their best linebacker to the portal as well. Colorado is building up. I think the vibe check is losing Jordan Seaton would be a blow to the you-know-whats down there in the nether region. But Colorado is still trending up. They still have a lot of guys that they're bringing in. They're in the transfer portal. Their transfer portal guys are a lot different than last year's. They're actually bringing in guys that played for the most part outside of looking at their portal class, outside of Terrell Timmons, the wide receiver from North Carolina State, and then Quincy Wiggins, Anquin Barnes, and Cordell Russell. A lot of experience, a lot of production. So they have a lot to kind of figure out. They have a lot to kind of plug and play. And Colorado's in a much better position compared to where they were last year. Last year, they just had a lot of transfers, and I think a lot of people were excited because it's like, oh, they got an Alabama third string corner. That's great. No, they're getting guys with experience. They're getting guys with Power 5 production, which is a huge thing. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this live episode of Locked on Buffs. I will have you guys covered every single day. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Make sure to give me 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Music. I appreciate all your guys' support. We just hit 40,000. We're almost there. 4,000 subs the other day. I'm appreciative. I'm going to go through some of the comments that I find interesting before I head out, and then we'll go on to our day, and we'll see what happens. Coach Prime is playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers, trying to keep up, says 1-0, one or 1-INL. I don't know. Either way, let's see. Coach Prime is playing a form of chess, I would say, in terms of like what he does in December, because he always does really well in flipping guys. He always does really well coming out of nowhere and being like, oh, we got this guy. Oh, we got Jordan Seaton. Oh, we got Draylon Miller. But he needs to put in more of an effort throughout the year, I would say. This other one, interesting. I'm a Maryland grad and now live 15 minutes from Boulder. I'm 5 minutes from campus now. I'm torn. Maryland is in the Big Ten. We're killing it for the first 5 games, but I'm all bust now. I like it. Okay. Let me see. It's called marketing, says Patrick Williams. I'm assuming you're talking about Jordan Seaton. Yeah. Jordan Seaton is definitely marketing himself. He's definitely getting the NIL bag. Can't blame him. Everybody wants to get the NIL bag. And I think a lot of people are kind of figuring out what is the right decision for him, right decision for them. This person says you guys need to be patient. I believe Seaton is coming. If he doesn't, Colorado has been great, has had a great day with other signings. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. So, yeah, not a lot of questions in here, more so, guys, people flipping out over Jordan Seaton. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is my final take on Jordan Seaton. If he stays with Colorado, great. If he doesn't, Colorado has contingency plans in place. It just would have been nice to have a recruit who they could build around. Obviously, losing your top-ranked recruit is never good. It's going to be a test. Coach Prime has a lot of time to make up. Until Jordan Seaton puts pen to paper, Coach Prime is going to be working. And I'm going to be covering it every step of the way over here on Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. Make sure to get your Christmas shopping done. Christmas is almost here. I hope you guys have a great holiday, a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow.